Greeting, friends.
Good evening.
I promised I would come and give you a real straightforward scoop on what's been going on. And in that time, I got some very interesting information. And we are having a little bit of a celebration tonight. But first, let me show you what it is. This is an official letter from the prosecutor's office of Russia. Let's see if I can do it. You can see it says hello, and you can see it's signed right there by the Honorable A.M. Safin. Okay. Now, this is what it says. It says it's from the prosecutor's office of the Russian Federation, Moscow region. Okay. Dear Leo Lionel, in the prosecutor's office of the region, on behalf of the prosecutor general's office, the Russian Federation has considered your appeal addressed to the State Duma of the Federal Assembly of the Russian Federation, M.V. Butina, on the improper conduct of a procedural check and on other issues, and they give the code, the statute code. It has been established that the Ministry of Internal Affairs of Russia in Domodedovo conducted and expressed in non-fulfillment of contractual obligations as a result. It has been established that the Ministry of Internal Affairs of Russia in Domodedovo conducted an inspection on your application for illegal actions of Vlasanko, Daniel Vitalovich, expressed in non-fulfillment of contractual obligations, as a result of which criminal proceedings were refused. So basically, they said they claimed that it was a contractual problem. Though my complaint was actually criminal, they turned it into a contractual and said, we want to investigate it. Okay. The specified decision in the Domodedovo City Prosecutor's Office was declared illegal and canceled. An additional check was organized and the regional prosecutor's office took the necessary response measures in order to activate it. So we want to just really celebrate this as a
small victory.
It's a small victory. It's not winning the war exactly, but it's a small victory in that finally we are the highest prosecutor in the land, the highest law office in the land, now recognizes that there was something wrong with how that decision not to investigate came about. So we want to give special thanks to the Deputy Butina. She is a great 702 advocate. I know she doesn't show us any kind of special favor or honor, but she's serious about her job. And when she sees injustice, it's very obvious she's going to do something about it.
She'll do what she's required to do by the law.
Right. So she takes her job seriously. So
she seems to obey the law more than some other people. For instance, the Domodedovo police.
Okay, maybe so. But in the position she has, she's taking it seriously, and so we would commend any public official from taking their job seriously and understanding this is not a joke. When you take on public authority, you do not work for yourself. You don't work for anybody. In a sense, you work for the country, but you also work to bring about proper, outcomes based on what's right and wrong. And hopefully, many officials will understand. They serve God in that position. They don't serve themselves. Well, whatever the case may be, we appreciate the Deputy Butina for doing her job. Now, also, I'm very thankful to the prosecutor's office and I guess I'm not sure of his title. It's hard with the translations of these things because the title, the translation, you don't have to touch that. It doesn't matter if it goes down like that. It's just saving power. That's all it's done. Okay, so we're just thankful that the officials of the Justice Department have finally taken our situation seriously, and we just hope for things to be better, not only for us, but for many people that we've met and have confided that they've been ignored, thrown to the side. I'm talking Russians. They've been thrown to the side. They've not had their rights upheld, and they've been just treated like it doesn't matter, and they get very discouraged. Well, I'm not going to be discouraged because, I serve God, not man. So this is a great thing. So, honey, I think we ought to do is quickly have ourselves a little toast in true Russian fashion. And I would like to make a toast to the honest and integrous officials of the Russian Federation, and especially those who have seen to show kindness to us, and also just normal decency. It's not kindness to us. This is normal decency. So,
well, here's to pursuing.
To pursuing
true legal action. Cheers.
That's good. Strawberry, right?
No, it's cherry. What do you call this stuff? I have to put my glasses on. And this was a gift from somebody, a neighbor who had dinner with us.
One of our good Russian friends, by the way.
Vishnya na cognac.
Let him read it. Cognac. Okay. Well, it tastes pretty good. I'm not much of a drinker, but my gosh.
It's a cognac that they enjoy.
Honestly, I don't drink much at all. In fact, in America, I barely ever drank. But since I've come to Russia, it's just so much fun. You go to somebody's house and they're giving you something to drink. You say, hey, well, why not? Let's have a little fun,
Do as the Russians do when you're in Russia.
Well, let's just say do some of the things the Russians do. I don't know. I don't know if I...
Right. I never realized it was actually a cognac. That's... Yeah.
And I really like alcohol, but honestly, I think it's delicious. I just stay away from it for obvious reasons. Mm-hmm. Besides, I'm old. Okay, now here, as a treat to you guys, what I want to do is I actually want to read something that happened here. This right here, first of all, this document that I have shown you came in a series. The first thing I did was I sent a second appeal to Deputy Butina. She forwarded it to the prosecutor's office. The prosecutor's office then sent me another letter that looks similar to this, saying that they were now going to evaluate whether they should act on this or not. So that was good news. And then a little while later, I'd say about a month later, they said, okay, we get it. Now we are going to force a real investigation. Okay? And I don't know, I hope, I know that might sound mean, but I hope that if anybody's conspired with these Vlasankos, I don't care if they're the police, I hope they're discovered, and I hope that they find themselves in the lurch. They need to be punished.
In the deep pile.
In the deep pile. Okay, now, the person who sent me the intermediary letter was G.H. Volkov. And so this letter, once I realized, they were actually going to look into it, I wrote another letter which allowed me to put all the most up-to-date information in a concise way to really show, I've sent something to Butina, but I'm going to show you even more. Okay, so this is that letter, and explains everything really well. Okay, one last sip of cognac. And now the reading begins. Okay, it's about 9 pages. It's going to be a long here. So, okay. Honorable G.H. Volkov, regarding your message of 10th of October, 2025, number 493234. In fact, I'll show that to the camera right there. I don't know if you want to see that. Anybody wants to look that up, if you can, maybe if you're a public official, you can do that. All right, we have received the resolution from the Domodedova Prosecutor's Office indicating that the matter will not be investigated. Our appeal to Deputy M. Butina is the result of this decision. Attachment number 3. I had a bunch of other items attached to this particular letter, and I'll tell you more about that at the end of the video because everybody will have access to it. We highly deplore this resolution of the Domodedova MVD based upon the facts written below. We seek that justice be given us, and we do not want to see the perpetuation of criminal culture in Domodedova and the Moscow Oblast. We have demanded, but Daniel Vitalyevich Vlasanko, that our money be returned according to the agreement that Daniel Vitalyevich Vlasanko made with us personally and privately, despite the fact that he was dishonest in the way he got control of our money. Now that Daniel VV remains resolute to delay and manipulate the law in his favor, we rightly have asked the authorities to step in because of the criminal act of fraud on the part of the Vlasanko family. Now we are struggling to actually attain justice. Let me just clarify quickly. I said to Daniel, you just pay us according to the agreement, we overlook how you got the money. But if you won't do that, we'll go after fraud. Well, I guess he thinks that he can handle that. Well, we'll see. Now that Daniel VV remains resolute to delay and manipulate the law into his favor, we have rightly asked authorities to step in because of the criminal act of fraud on the part of the Vlasanko family. Now we are struggling to actually attain justice. In order to get our money returned, we believe that we now must seek to reverse this decision of non-investigation and to expose the rotten underbelly of official corruption that condones this fraud. Once the Vlasanko fraud is addressed by public officials, then we can proceed to get our money returned, and with damages if applicable. Presently, the Vlasankos are being permitted by authorities to misuse laws to avoid taking the proper action, the return of our money. This response from Domodedova DMV had been offered with the official seals and authoritative persons' signatures, however, on a false and unsubstantiated basis and by ignoring pertinent facts based on falsehoods uttered by Daniel Vlasanko and procedural neglect of the signatories. Okay, so they all got together, said we want to investigate. All the guys got around, they signed their signatures, right? But they didn't. This explains everything. Let me go. The resolution is not faithful to the full facts of the case. The resolution is a twisted and insincere document which does not resolve the issue of obvious criminal activity of the Vlasankos. In addition, the body of the resolution mentions many irrelevant factoids that have no substantial influence upon the original complaints, which accuse the Russian citizen Daniel Vitalyevich Vlasanko and his father Vitaly Kirillovich Vlasanko of 3 basic criminal acts against us, the Hare family. Number 1, a false business, company, and a non-existent investment presented as a viable place to put our money on a short-term basis. 2, a fraudulent contract written as a personal loan when the basis of the investment, quote-unquote, was the apparency of an actual Moscow business in which Daniel claimed to be the chief financial executive. 3, a father-son conspiracy to dupe us into handing over our 5 million rubles as an, quote, investment in a, quote, company that both father and son knew did not exist. In addition, the mother, Miss Vlasanko, and the daughter, an immigration officer, to a degree, must have known what was being done by the, quote, Vlasanko men.
Since they were there when
Especially, yeah, they
it
were
all
there.
occurred.
Yeah, they were there preparing dinner, you know, like they normally do. Okay, I
And
guess.
breakfast, they all came to breakfast the next morning as well.
Okay, that's right. The signatories of this resolution have not made an honest attempt to understand the situation that was so bombastically and unauthentically decided in the resolution on the refusal to initiate a criminal case. I will list defects in the resolution that any normal investigator who is interested in true justice would seek to substantiate. The Domodedovo MVD apparently got the information from Daniel via a phone call, and he apparently accepted any statement that Daniel VV gave as fact, but without apparent requirements of proofs or physical evidence of any kind of paper trail of how our money was handled. I personally was at the station twice answering specific questions from the officers. And they asked for evidence, okay? They did. They wanted my statement. And I had it too. The document states that we had given 5 million rubles for a quote investment project at 28% interest. This is absolutely untrue, because we only gave Daniel VV as a representative of his company the use of the money for a 3-month period, not as a specific investment in a project. Our mutual understanding is that Daniel VV would use the money in his company for short-term investments for a 3-month period. No specific investments were specified. This would be capital that would be used short-term and then returned in full with interest. Following this false statement by the author, he states, Vlasanko invested them, the 5 million rubles, that is the 5 million rubles, in a long-term investment project in the field of real estate. Now, did the investigator demand any proof of this project in the field of real estate? No, he did not. This was a lie told to us and repeated by Daniel to the Domodedovo MVD, but the investigator had no apparent desire to see if it was indeed the case. The investigator should have asked Daniel to substantiate any statements made by Daniel VV that the Domodedovo MVD used as a basis to decide to not investigate our criminal complaints. A simple request for a paper trail of a legal investment is all that is needed in order to determine if Daniel VV has lied to the Domodedovo MVD. Additionally, did the signatories in the Domodedovo MVD seek to document any business or corporate data associated with Daniel VV and the Hare family? No, they did not. Daniel's business was non-existent, and the businesses that he had previously were under legal scrutiny for mismanagement of funds. As foreigners who do not know Russian, we were able to discover this on the internet. Okay? But the Domodedovo MVD couldn't? It is clear that these kinds of facts were unimportant to these Domodedovo officials. Next point. Later in the investigator's report, it says that they asked where these funds could be invested. Speaking they, like we asked. But this is also a misrepresentation. It makes it appear that we had not been thoroughly deceived into handing our money to Daniel VV in the first place. While Daniel VV was at the farm on December 28, 2023, he spent hours convincing me that he had a prosperous company that was related to a Moscow businessman and where Daniel VV himself was the chief financial officer. Daniel had already convinced me that his company could handle our money for the short-term investment. After Daniel VV changed the money to rubles, I only inquired about the possibility of investment based upon what Daniel had mentioned on December 28th, 2025, a few days before, on the 28th. Okay, the main issue was asking Daniel VV if he could change our dollars to rubles, as his father, Vitaly Kirillovich Vlasanko, said that he could. He apparently used his boss's company information to convince me that he could change the money. Daniel VV's father, Vitaly K. Vlasanko, also had previously assured us that Daniel could change the money and had arranged the whole series of meetings that culminated in the fraudulent taking of our money. Next point. The Domodedovo MVD did not address any aspect of Daniel VV's unusual access to large amounts of cash. Daniel took a lot of time to convince me that he could actually handle the task of changing the money. He showed me his company website and pictures of himself with dignitaries, and a famous Russian major general was on there too, who he apparently works under. He claimed that his company was doing a lot of business and they had very much cash from different Russian Federation countries. He said that they had their own bank. Considering the position that the major general holds in the Russian government, this was probably a true statement. He later took our cryptocurrency and USD to his office in Moscow. Daniel's access to huge amounts of cash was the basis of the whole transaction. Yet, the Domodedovo MVD did not seem to be interested in this vital aspect of Daniel VV's ability to change USD into rubles. Any competent investigator would be very thorough in the investigation of this unusual fact. The fact that this aspect was ignored by the Domodedovo MVD is suspicious in itself.
Yeah, I remember when we tried to go to the bank, they didn't want to take our dollars, so they must have gone to a private person and taken this money and exchanged it out of just funds that they had sitting around.
Daniel took every bad bill we had. Oh, no problem. No problem. I've got it, man. I've got this one. Okay, let's carry on. Good point. At the same time, the statement of the Domodedovo MVD claims that the transaction falls under the Russian law. And the name of it is On Investment Activities in the Russian Federation. But that law only applies to legitimate and truthful actions by the one taking the investment. The crime of fraud is not specifically protected by Russian law. Daniel VV clearly deceived us by pretending to have a, quote, company that was producing enough profit to warrant paying us interest. Anybody who wants to do a serious investigation would ask for company documents that would substantiate Daniel VV's statements that he offered an investment. Right. The Domodedovo MVD did not require these proofs. When we arrived at the Vlasanko home in Domodedovo on the 29th of December 2023, we received our converted money in rubles, and then because of the false trust that the father and the son provided us, we were tricked into handing our money to Daniel as a representative of his, quote, company. We never thought we had given Daniel a personal loan. He wrote a contract that we could not read in longhand, which now looks like a personal loan. The Domodedovo MVD claims that the Whatsap messenger confirms that Daniel gave us reports of our investment. But did the Domodedovo MVD demand to see these reports regarding the investment? No, they did not. No such reports exist. It is a simple matter to ask Daniel VV to provide the Domodedovo MVD copies of each and every report pertaining to January 2024 until now, October 2025 at the time that I wrote this. The reports do not exist and were never delivered to us. The Domodedovo MVD has gladly accepted yet another lie from Daniel VV. I once asked for such a document from Daniel, but the table that Daniel provided had no official data or business markings. His hastily written table was something that a child could write, and the figures were wrong. So the Domodedovo MVD has basically falsified evidence in an official document on an important matter of legal import in such a way as to assert a falsehood in the line of their official duty. This is a crime in itself against the state and against us whose rights have been violated. Next point. The Domodedova MVD also claims that Daniel VV constantly replies to us, which is also a lie. I have sent Daniel VV many official requests to him, of which he has only replied to one of them. Though I have repeatedly asked him to clarify how and when he intends to pay us our money, he has never replied to this request. I have the proof of my many attempts to contact him via post, demanding a reply as to how he would begin to pay us. I have numerous proofs of physical letters that I have sent to his address in Domodedova, where he and his family live. Attachment number 2. And you'll find that in a document source I'll show you later. Daniel will have nothing to show for his supposed constant replies to us. Again, the Domodedova MVD has entered false and unverified evidence into the record, which is a serious crime for an official to commit under any circumstances. The Domodedova MVD writes that the parties involved, quote, acted on a trusting basis, unquote. This is a laughable statement coming from an officer, since a scam is based upon a manipulation of trust. Broken and false trust is the essence of a scam, which is an action based in manufactured trust. Trust created in bad faith leads to criminal theft through trust. A prosecutor should understand these things and be willing to recognize them. In the English language, we would describe the Vlasanko's father and son as con men, confidence men, or trust men. Okay? Daniel VV and his father tricked us by what's called affinity fraud. Affinity fraud is the use of common religious beliefs and beneficial acts as a means to lure someone into an affinity trap. They offered to help us by providing us a place to live when we were feeling desperate and fearful. They were presented as friends by the deputy of the Duma, Dmitry Vadimich Kuznetsov of the Moscow Oblast. And our immigration team leader, Svetlana A. Rose, also, she's the one who actually suggested them for the deputy. We were led to believe that Vitaly KV was an upright, quote, Christian Baptist and a pastor, but then they used our trust and vulnerability against us to obtain control of our money. They maneuvered us into a false investment using our trust as a method. I've discovered since that the father has been scamming people in the Christian church in Russia for years, and that he has been excommunicated from the Moscow Baptist Union in 2019. The religious affinity was used to steer us into the fraud that they had crafted, a company that did not exist, and consequently the investment did not exist, and they would have known this. The entire family would know these facts, it can be assumed. They all could be interrogated to learn the extent of their complicity or condoning of the fraudulent taking of our money on December 30th, 2023, and this is something the police could do and should do. Next point. This was a false trust in a, quote, company that did not exist, and an investment opportunity that was completely false and non-existent. We sought to give the money to Daniel as a representative of his, quote, company, never to him personally. Our trust was a deception made in bad faith by the Vlasankos, a crime of fraud and it was a malicious intent to take our money illegitimately. This was the father, the son, the mother, and the daughter who knew that this was happening. We trusted the Vlasanko family, but they set us up and betrayed us, knowing that we were vulnerable and impressionable. This was not true trust, but a manipulation of our capacity to trust. This is fraud. So are we to believe that the Domodedovo MVD, the prosecutor, and they cannot see this? Are we to believe this? The Domodedovo MVD writes that we had an agreement to buy a hypothecated silver from Daniel. However, did the Domodedovo MVD ask to see this contract? There should be a contract that states this arrangement and also a list of the means by which the money would be obtained by Daniel VV from which to pay us, or the investment that was to be sold. Such a contract does not exist. Did Domodedovo DMV officials ask for a copy of this, quote, investment to substantiate Daniel VV's claim? No, the officers apparently did not. A competent prosecutor would not blindly trust the claims of a potentially indictable criminal who was under scrutiny for alleged criminal activity. The Domodedovo MVD has in effect simply imagined that the contract exists when it does not. This also is the insertion of falsified evidence, which is a serious matter of law. Right, and our rights is a serious matter of law. So they put falsified evidence into our mix, okay? In addition, as a man of the law, the official would understand that the property was communal between my wife and me, and that communal property requires that all owners must sign such a contract in order to have it in force. So this contract talk about silver is another false basis that the Domodedovo MVD has relied upon to justify the resolution not to investigate. This was the Domodedovo MVD's whole acceptance of Daniel's justification for the fact that Daniel VV had spent our money on his lavish needs and gave it to his friends and boss. This is incompetence at best and dereliction of duty at worst. But in either case, the intent to commit conspiracy should not be ignored as a possibility by investigating officers. The fact is that when we asked for our money to be returned in April 2024, Daniel VV refused, stating that he had invested his money, this money, our money, right, in a, quote, long-term real estate project that would be sold not by the end of the year, rather in July 2024.
June or July.
Right. When the object might sell. This kind of was his thing.
Yeah, and the original contract was supposed to be a 3-month short-term investment, not any long-term investment.
Right. So, okay. It is clear that the Domodedovo MVD did not read the supporting evidence to my 3 criminal complaints that I filed by internet portal. Again, the Domodedovo MVD is perpetuating false evidence, which is a crime against us in terms of our rights, and as an officer of the law, it represents criminal sedition against law and order in the general sense. The pattern we see in our interactions with Daniel VV and the Department of Justice officials is that the Domodedovo MVD has asked all the questions that define crime from the law, and Daniel VV has given all the right answers. However, Daniel VV has told substantive lies to the Domodedovo MVD, and it appears that Domodedovo MVD is very willing to accept Daniel's prevarications and untruths as established facts. So in light of this pattern, we do not trust that the Domodedovo MVD's resolution was given in good faith. An understatement. Lies to an official is a crime that Daniel has openly committed in his, quote, phone call with the Domodedovo MVD and on public media platforms. The shameful thing is not that the Vlasankos feel immune to commit crimes, but that the police are providing immunity to them.
Why?
We expect criminals to do criminal acts without compunction or human conscience, but to have sworn officials agree with such criminality brings a general sense of distrust of the government, and it contributes to the destruction of hope for an open and free culture where human rights are truly respected. Now, the scammers are not the actual problem in the larger sense, but the authorities themselves. This is bad for a nation, and it prepares a culture for eventual civil uprisings if not corrected. Next point. The Domodedovo MVD cites Russian law. Law number 039-FZ of 25.02.1999, quote, on investment activities in the Russian Federation. Then the Domodedovo MVD persists in redefining my criminal complaint into a civil proceeding. We should inform the Domodedovo MVD that civil law does not apply to criminal actions. Civil laws apply to lawful and legal transactions. A proper civilization requires integrity in the public official. A proper civilization requires that criminality is legally resolved and punished once it is discovered. If there is a criminal complaint submitted, it is the prosecutor's duty to discover the actual nature of the transaction. This is his service to God and to his country and to his fellow citizen. The official has a very honorable and special place in the government. The government officials must uphold the higher principles of human rights, such as the right to enter into contract with full disclosure and by legitimate means. When a criminal act is discovered, it is the duty of the state to discover the nature of illegal or immoral financial interactions by adequate investigation, by forensic inquiry, by the examination of individuals connected to such dealings. The law enforcement official is tasked to spend his time to make this determination. It is a high calling that must be taken seriously. The badge of authority, the public official, must serve the higher ideals of civilization, not the personal desires, nor the base desires of criminal elements in the society. If the people cannot rely on the duly authorized official to use his authority in the interest of law and order, then there is no actual political consent, a sense of respect and partnership flowing from the people for the official's placement in this important position of trust and honor. The murmur of disrespect flows through the society and undermines the political support needed for a peaceable and healthy civilization. So this travesty of injustice done to us by the Vlasankos and by the apparent consent of the Domodedovo MVD is actually a crime committed against the people and the government in general. It should be seen as a violation of trust of the public and the government hierarchy. Now, I must say something. A lot of people say, oh, but you don't understand our hierarchy. Yes, I do. But you've got to understand, their authority does not exist for no reason. Okay? You must start doing something right in your government. You can't cure corruption in one day, but you've got to do something right. You've got to do something good. You've got to start a new trend, okay? So don't laugh at me. I know what I'm doing here. I know what I'm talking about, okay? The Domodedovo MVD says that no crime happened, no event. I see nothing according to the statute of law. I close my eyes and see nothing, he seems to say. The Vlasanko crime against us was fraud by pretending a business, pretending the position of chief financial officer, by writing a contract that did not reflect the actual verbal agreement that was made. I provided the evidence, and I have, of fraud. I provided it in my criminal complaints. Now the Domodedovo MVD expects me to provide more data that only the Domodedovo MVD has the authority to search out, such as legally ordering subpoenas of related persons, financial disclosures that are ordered by a court, and the judicial right to search private residences and to confiscate files where deemed necessary by the court. In essence, the Domodedovo MVD's actions say, I will not look for a crime, therefore I see no crime. And because of this, I resolve that there was no event. This is circular logic that does nothing but allow the fraud to remain in place, and the criminals are laughing, having escaped criminal liability. How many other Russians suffer the same thing? How many? I've talked to at least two that were scammed, and there was nothing for them. Okay.
So many people who have commented even on our YouTube channel, I was scammed, or my grandmother was scammed, or my cousin was scammed, or my best friend. I mean,
it goes on, and I'm going to tell you why these scams.
It's in every nation, but
okay, it's we're talking about this nation. Okay, yeah, it is can be everywhere, but we're talking about this. We're not, oh, it's everywhere. We're not going to say that. We're going to say we need this to be corrected here, at least in our case for sure, and hopefully for others. But this is why these things go on. It's because everybody, as that money gets passed around, goes through all the officials, every official takes a little bit of his, so when it comes to actually give the money back to the people that were scammed, it's already been distributed among officials. Now, this is how these real estate scams, these apartment scams happen. The reason the officials don't do anything is because they all took a piece and they don't want to give it back, and they spent it on whatever they spent it on. Okay?
Yeah, we were scammed out of, in our opinion, $400 to sit here for 15 minutes for us to look over and somebody else talk about a document. They wanted $400 for 15 minutes of their time.
Okay. I'm not sure what this is about.
That was when we rented here. Remember?
Okay, now this is completely off. This does not pertain to this at all. Okay, so let's carry on here. So the point is, the officials everyone takes a little, and so when you ask the officials to return the money, they're all thinking, I don't want to return my part. He can return his part. Okay, this is kind of what's happening. How do I know this? Because I talk to lawyers. I have friends in places of authority. I know these people. I've been living in Russia for 2 years. I know Russian culture better than you might think. Okay, I talk to people. They confide in me. I care for people. Okay. Let me see if I can find this right here. Hold on, where I was. Okay, what I'm saying. So basically, this is a circular logic. So I'm just going to say it again. He says, I will not look for a crime, therefore I see no crime, and because of this, I resolve that there was no event. Okay? This is a circular logic that does nothing but allow the fraud to remain in place, and the criminals are laughing, having escaped criminal liability. The Domodedovo MVD seems to be happy to accept anything that Daniel Vivi says without substantiation or proof. So now the Domodedovo MVD appears to be in conspiratorial relationship with the Vlasankos. The Domodedovo MVD seems eager to unlawfully release the Vlasanko family from criminal liability, which indicates a crime of conspiracy. I normally would not attack a public official with these statements. However, the Domodedovo MVD's abject dereliction of duty has caused our attempts to obtain justice to stall, and has in effect given the Vlasankos illegally granted immunity from criminal liability, which is a specific crime in Russia. Meanwhile, we have been thrust into poverty. My wife and children have suffered in front of my eyes for nearly 2 years, while we have been falsely represented in the press of Russia as fools or scammers. And we have been ignored by law officials and those who have knowledge of everything in the matter, but care only for themselves and their little food chain.
Yeah, we were slandered on Joseph Rose's American Expat channel for an hour and a half, sitting there slandering us for being fake and scammers. And nobody, not Svetlana Rose.
Not even Svetlana Rose.
She saw the contract and knew that it was a lie and that we had been scammed. She watched me cry my eyes out at the mall when she and Irina confirmed what had happened. So.
Okay, so let me take off where I last was. What I was saying was, meanwhile, we have been thrust into poverty. My wife and children have suffered in front of my eyes for nearly 2 years, while we have been falsely represented in the press of Russia as fools or scammers, and we have been ignored by law officials and those who have knowledge of everything in the matter, but care only for themselves. We have the God-given right to retain our money and to obtain justice if we have been criminally abused. The Domodedova MVD deserves every bit of what I have said in this letter due to their unconcern for law and order, for protecting the Vlasanko family of scammers, and the Domodedova MVD's indecent dereliction of duty in our case. The Domodedova MVD states that the decision not to investigate was taken due to the absence of a crime. In my criminal complaints, I have provided information that the Vlasankos seem to be involved in a larger Ponzi scheme in which we were victimized. The Domodedova MVD did not mention looking into the larger mafia-like network that the Vlasankos work under. Some obvious questions that were not mentioned are, number 1, where did Daniel get access to massive amounts of cash? Number 2, who is the director of the Moscow business where Daniel went to change the money? I have done my best to provide evidence along this vector in the criminal complaints that I submitted. But as a non-citizen and a private civilian person, I'm looking to the authorities who carry this responsibility.
Yeah, there would be record. If you go to the bank or an exchange, they give you a receipt showing how the money was exchanged. So, if Daniel did go somewhere like a bank, then he would have a receipt record for that. Just a little point.
Let me add, if he went up to his retired general who runs the business that he works under, and he would talk to the secretary, you'll get a record of them coming in. Maybe not. Probably would. Something. Maybe he brought in a bunch of dollars. I don't know. Who knows? They might have a record in the business. See,
if the police were going to really truly investigate, they would look into all those situations.
yeah, they would dig in. But here's the thing, is that by going to the police, I'm doing what's right. And when people make a complaint to the police, they're actually honoring the police. They're actually saying, we need your help. Okay? And it's an honor to be asked to do your job, especially when people have been ripped off. So let me kind of continue on here. So it seems clear to us that our situation is here. I think it's. Let me just push pause here. Okay, so it seems clear to us that our situation is actually small part of a larger ongoing criminal network operating under the oversight of a certain retired major general. He is a famous man, an old guard Russian patriot. Here, let me push pause for a second here. Yeah, as I was saying, a certain retired major general. He's a famous man, an old guard Russian patriot, but he seems to be providing political protection to the Vlasankos. Both Daniel VV and his partner Yuri, who is a young guy like Daniel, with the same stuff on his phone and everything. At least they had the same stuff when they met me. They are quick to fall back on his association when defending their positions in our case. Daniel has mentioned his, quote, patron in the government. Okay. I was able to track this overlord through contact information provided by Daniel VV's partner, Yuri, who also was collecting investments for his boss. Both Daniel and Yuri told us at different times that the bulk of our money was being held by their, quote, director. The major general's name and identity is found in these web addresses right here. I don't know if you can see them, but there's going to be a link in the description. You're going to be able to have this exact document that I'm reading. You're going to have it. Okay? You just have to go to it. The Domodet of MVD has not followed any leads in the apparent existence of a larger crime ring in the Moscow Oblast, operating in a legitimate front as a business, but running scams under the political cover of the Major General. This is the website and contact information of the company that Daniel and Yuri work for, and Vitaly Kirillovich Vlasanko might have been carrying for this Major General in his former semi-diplomatic capacity of General Secretary for the Russian Evangelical Alliance. There is the web address, phone number. I tried to contact this general, and I wanted to have a meeting with him, talk to him about his protege. I did not get any response.
How did you try to reach him?
Email, company email. All right. So I was going to talk to the man. Damn it. The Domodet of MVD seems to have completely ignored the larger ongoing Ponzi scheme of this apparent crime ring in Moscow. Here, let me see. Here's some more address information. I don't know if it comes across on the video or not.
It's a little, I think it looks a little
Oh, well,
blurry.
you'll have access to
My
this
eyes,
document.
I don't know.
And I'll explain why I give access to this document at the end. The Domodet, the Vlasankos must have understood that we trusted them implicitly due to the recommendation of a Duma member, Deputy Kuznetsov, and our immigration consultant, Svetlana A. Rose. Daniel convinced us that we would be earning interest while we looked for a house. Then, at our request, he would give the principal to us along with the interest. The whole thing revolved around my impression that Daniel VV had a viable company that could use our cash to facilitate short-term deals. The apparent facts seem to indicate that the Vlasankos used information from the business of Major General Anatoly Petrovich to pretend that he had his own company. Also, Daniel VV seemed to be working under the direction of Anatoly Petrovich, being instructed how to avoid legal trouble and how to avoid returning our money. This is my conjecture. I think it's likely. I don't know if that's true. Daniel apparently used Petrovich's company information and cash reserves to exaggerate his own importance to me, claiming to be chief financial officer. Daniel took investments from us by deception, by faking the existence of a company. He apparently had expert help from the Major General and or possibly the father, Vitaly Kirillovich Vlasanko. And with a guarantee of political cover and an unofficially granted immunity which emboldened Daniel VV and his father Vitaly KV to recklessly endanger our lives and future in Russia when we were most vulnerable. It is also possible that at the time of the money transfer that the father of Daniel VV had cash reserves stashed in his home in Domodedovo. As a result of his various scams that he has apparently conducted over the years, plus a possible intelligence arrangements with the general could be looked into. This evidence and my reasons for suspicion is not covered in this letter, but in the attached explanation to a Russian official. The manner in which Daniel VV handled our money and the writing of the fraudulent contract seemed to be expertly crafted to avoid a legal accountability, which then makes the ongoing manipulation of Russian law to our disadvantage a foregone conclusion, a premeditated act. The scammers' methods of avoiding legal liability for crime is a premeditated and malicious use of law to escape his premeditated criminal actions. Part of the scam is actually using law to perpetuate the scam's effect with mafia-style immunity. The scammer's intended effect is in place, that they retain our money forever. This is material theft and the usurpation of the intent of the law and manipulation of the power of the law. Using law against its intent is a crime in itself. Because the effect is criminal and unjust, and the law is mocked by the one who manipulates it according to his criminal desires. Let that one sink in. The law itself becomes a tool of fraud. The widespread suspicion that most officials and lawyers and other people have told me is that the Vlasankos have bribed officials in the Domodedovo MVD and in the Kashira region regarding our residence on the Vlasanko property in Zendakovo, and in relation to the criminal complaints that we have submitted. Such a suborning of legal authority by public officials would be a crime in itself, and a form of sedition and treason, a willful violation of public trust and of the oath of service. Having $5 million on hand would give the Vlasankos plenty of money to use for bribery. It is clearly the fact that many Russian officials would be happy to take free money in exchange for a favor. This is an unpleasant cultural reality in Russia, I have learned. Despite this, our basic human rights are now being criminally abused by the Vlasankos and some officials in this crime ring. Nevertheless, we need the return of our money. We need our money.
And the damages that it has caused our family.
Having our money was part of our plan to survive in Russia. This has been cruelly taken from us. We are seeking proper justice.
And we will continue to pursue it until we find justice or just continue to pursue.
The problem's not going away for you guys. Just remember that. Another important fact that must be understood that Daniel has admitted on hidden camera, which was published openly in the news, and I have an attachment for that, to have taken our money for private use and to pay other investors. This means that he has lied to us and the Domodedova MVD about what he did with our money. Also, his father, Vitality KV, told us in August 2024 that he and his son were trying to find another investor to supply money so as to be able to pay us our full amount of money.
He said it a couple times.
So he did.
He also stated that they had a nice, wonderful 2023 Christmas.
With gifts
Lots of
lavished from the
lavish
son
gifts.
on all the family like never before. Let's carry on here. Hold on. This was in August of 2024, before we had moved from the property. Both Daniel and Yuri told us that their boss had the money and would not be willing to release the money to us. This admission was made in the presence of our former immigration lawyer, Irina Popova, twice. And Irina Popova is the one who works with Svetlana Rose, or at least used to. This happened on 2 separate occasions, as she can rightly testify. Our money was not invested, but it was spent on lavish Christmas gifts for the Vlasanko family in 2024, according to the father. Our money was spent on Daniel VV's personal appetites, and it was spread around Daniel's group of friends, and it was apparently given to the Major General. We also suspect that some may have been given to Irina Popova and Svetlana A. Rose, and possibly the deputy Dmitry Vadomich Kuznetsov. However, that might not be the case. We're not here to accuse these people. I said we suspect.
I actually had a dream about that. Do you remember? Like, I had a dream right about the time that we found out that our money was not going to be returned. I had a dream, and I said, I had a dream like they were all in it together.
Okay.
It was just a dream.
It was a dream, but sometimes dreams do mirror reality, but that's not proof.
Yeah, no.
However, because of how Irina has spoken to me about the incident, the way that the deputy has spoken to me, they seem like people who wish it would just go away, rather than people who want to help us.
Right.
And that to me is suspicious behavior, especially since Dmitry Vadomich Kuznetsov was one of the first people I met when I came to Russia. Mm-hmm. And I didn't know he's a deputy then, but later on I found out. Okay?
Right.
And it was partly because of him that we received some advantages, some things, some policy letters he wrote, especially he was also part of his doing, as far as I know, that the 702 decree was also written. And I think a lot of the things we suffered were inspiration to help others. But it was weird that we weren't taken care of. We felt like we were thrown out to the wolves.
Yeah, our money was taken, and then we were thrown out to the curb. We don't need those people. And guess what? Nobody wanted to help us when we really needed it. So
none of those people.
What happened?
None of those
Tell
people.
me about that.
Not the people who had the power, but you know who helped us was the YouTube audience, people in Russia, the kindness of Father Ignati up in Krasnova, the great people who responded to the touch of the Lord on their hearts.
When I finally cried out, as we were basically homeless, looking for a place to live. Yeah, we were living on a church property, but we were
Paying our rent by working, yes.
basically homeless at that time, and nobody that was supposed to be working for us would do a thing to help us.
Yeah, suddenly, I mean, everything went bad. I don't want to go off on a tangent here. Let's see if I can finish this up.
Just all kind of wraps together.
It does.
They're kind of all, if you look at it, it just all seems to go together as a puzzle. So.
But again, we're not capable of doing criminal investigations or doing forensic audits on people's finances. We don't have that ability. That's why we're turning to the Honorable authorities. Why are they honorable? Because they have an honorable job. Now, whether they carry out that job in an honorable way, well, God can watch that, and He'll see. So let me see if I can continue. I'm almost done with this reading here. Okay, so let's get back here. So in both times, it says both Daniel and Uri told us that their boss had the money and would not be willing to release the money to us. This admission was made in the presence of our former immigration lawyer, Irina Popova, twice. This happened on 2 separate occasions, as she can testify. Our money was not invested, but it was spent on lavish Christmas gifts for the Vlasanko family in Christmas of 2024, according to the father. Our money was spent on Daniel VV's personal appetites, and it was spread around Daniel's group of friends, and it was apparently given to the Major General. We also suspect that some may have been given to Irina Popova, Svetlana A. Rose, and possibly Deputy Dmitry Vladimirovich Kuznetsov. However, these persons might be running interference for the Major General Anatoly Petrovich and the Vlasankos as a political favor. So they might try to discourage us from going through with these type of things because they're just trying to show, hey, we're nice guys. We're part of your group, right? So I don't really know what motivates them. I don't. For a greater detail of some of these facts, the persons, and my theories surrounding the case, I have included a document titled To a Concerned Russian Official, and that's attachment 4. One of the problem is that the Domodedovo MVD refuses to update our address and continues to send our vital legal correspondences with them to our former address in Krasnova, Yaroslavl Oblast. Okay? So this continual inattention to detail by the Domodedovo MVD has caused us hardship and delays in handling our situation in a timely manner. I have tried to correct this, but there has been no adequate response to my attempt. My last set of criminal complaints included my present address in Ivanova. These changes have been ignored by the Domodedovo MVD. Okay? Now, they actually caused us a 4-month delay from my original
Your original document back in September.
yeah, well, back in
September
May. No, in May.
2024.
I mean, May, June, July, August, September. I mean, these people, you know. Anyway, so I'm not here to rave against the MVD, but I am saying that everybody has the ability to do what's right, no matter who you are. You have to, first of all, worship what is true. If you don't worship what is true, you're not going to know what's right. You're going to be like a little, like a babe in the woods, being told what to do, being scared by the bears. Okay? You'll be running around. And you have this big star on your chest, a big badge. You have a gun in your belt. But you don't even know how to use the authority you have. If you don't understand what truth is, if you don't love the truth, how will you ever do what's good in the eyes of God? You can't. That's why I suggest to everybody, consider the wisdom of seeking God and asking forgiveness for your crimes, for bribery, for your drunkenness, for your adultery. These people who have badges and go around and have this job, but they're like thugs, you know. They don't have the principles they really need to be good people. I suggest that anybody who finds himself in this position, that you ask God to forgive you, and you ask Him to change your life and change your heart. Now, as I promised, I'm going to tell you why I've decided to release all the documents. It's because, starting at the beginning, I did everything as quietly as possible. I tried to protect Daniel, even the guy who took my money. I tried to protect him from any kind of shame. So I didn't even tell his dad that he was screwing up. But then later on, I realized his dad already knew about it. But see, I I had this false sense of honor toward these people. Then later on, I did criminal complaints. I caught all kinds of hell from American expats because I wouldn't tell my story, and they said you're scammers because you're not talking. No, I was honoring the process. I had just filed a criminal complaint. I was honoring the police. What they do, they turned it into, oh great, no one knows about it. We're not going to do anything about it. So screw you. Ha 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 ha. Okay? So then at some point, when my wife went for that walk and was sitting in the graveyard and saw all the symbols of fallen people around her, death, she just felt dead herself. And she just started emoting. And you know what? And after that happened, I said, you know what? The floodgates are open. And so now I have a policy. Everything I give to the government, I'll give to the press. I'll publish on my chats. Anything I've got, it's fully open. It's, as far as I'm concerned, everything I've read today is a public document and can be found in multiple news agencies, multiple departments. Why? Is because the dishonorable behavior of the officials have forced me to dishonor confidentiality. Because why? Many of these officials cannot be trusted. They can't be trusted. So now I'm forced to break what I think is the more preferred method, is to do things quietly, honestly, with integrity, with a minimum of public shame. That's the way I want to do things. But the people, these officials that I have dealt with, and the dishonest scammers have not allowed me to show that kindness. In fact, what I was doing on my part unilaterally was considered weakness and was considered submission. Because I wasn't talking, they thought I was submitting. No, I was just doing a lot of praying. And now it's all going to be said to everybody. Everybody knows. Okay? Now, what I am looking for, I'm looking for the real Russians to come out of the woodwork. Okay? I'm asking the real Russians to come out. The ones that really love the country, the ones that want to see positive things in the country. I'm asking the real Russians who want to see law and order. Okay? The real Russians who would like to see this scamming culture dealt with. But more importantly, the real Russians who really care about us and the people around them. And I'm asking if there are any professionals, lawyers who would like to go over this information that I'm leaving in public view. And if you think that you would like to contribute to us, to help us, because we don't have a big store of money. But if you think that you can make some money off of this, we're fine by that. I don't mind if you make money off of doing your job. But we really do need our money back. We need some damages, and preferably that it's not really my business. This would be up to the Russian authorities. I'd like to see the scammers and anybody who received their money and received it with a wink and a nod, or however they got it. They need to pay, and they need to be prosecuted to whatever extent they actually helped make our lives. What can I say? Make our lives misery, because they were helping. They were feeding off of the Americans. If they were found feeding off of us, laughing and giggling and taking money because they knew it came from us. Okay, these people are part of the conspiracy, and that includes the police, anybody. All right? So I'm asking for the real Russians to come out of the woodwork. I'm asking for the people who believe in God, who trust Christ, who want to see God's good kingdom in this earth. I ask you to come out of the woodwork. You can contact us, and we're going to put some links in the description below, along with a couple of links to a Dropbox account, and you can go, you can gather these documents and look them over yourself. There's other stuff in there too, so it's for anybody. the press, it's for public officials, it's for law enforcement, it's for FSB, MVD, Kremlin, anybody. I don't care. You can have this information. We really want our money back. And on top of that, a lot of other real Russians want us to have our money back. Okay? And there are a lot of other Russians that are not jealous that we came with money. They just want us to have our money back. They want us to have our life. Okay? So with that, I want to thank you for your time and your ear and your concern. And I look forward to meeting some of you. I'm sure I will. I look forward to talking with you. If you reach out to us, you can, or if you're in the comments, and I want to respond to your comment, I surely will. And who knows, all I can say is that I appreciate you people who really have shown so much love and care for us. And it's probably more than we deserve, but that's okay. Sometimes we get more than we deserve in a good way. And I hope every one of you get more than you deserve in a good way. And on top of that, I want to really say that through Jesus Christ, we can make it through any situation. We can fight any battle. We can see justice done. Because why? Jesus is the author of justice. He is the creator of all that's good. And he's even created a few things which are bad. And the reason he does that is he needs to teach us how to choose him and to get rid of that which is not of him. So he allows some ugly things in this world, like theft, like different things. Okay? But he provides the way out. So with that, I just want to give glory to the Lord. In a way, I want to thank God for this problem, because it's even done great things in my heart and changed me in a lot of ways. It's been painful, but who said it would always be easy? And who said that the good things don't also come with some effort and some difficulty? Who said that was ever the case? So
there's always a refining in the fire.
That's right.
And I think basically every story in the scripture, they went through trials and tribulations. Nobody had an easy story in the scripture. So if God wants to do something and use somebody, there's going to be problems. So, yeah.
God is messy. He has us live our messy lives, but through the process, he wants us to trust in Jesus Christ. Mm-hmm. So I encourage every one of you to bow your knee to Jesus, ask him to forgive you your sins, come into your life to set you free from years of maybe worry or any kind of oppression, that you could come into faith with Jesus Christ. And I hope that everyone would join in prayer also, that they would see Jesus come and manifest himself through our situation, and that we'd see something very positive come from the ministry of Internal Affairs and the Justice Department. We would like to see we would like Russians to be proud of their Justice Department. We would like to see that. On top of we getting our money back, which would be awesome. But there's greater benefits that we would really like to see. It's for the country itself. So we wish you all well, and whatever you're doing, what is it? Take care of God's business, and then he'll take care of yours. So
that's right. Lean on him, not your own understanding.
Okay, with that, I want to thank you, and I'm sure we'll make another video sometime, but who knows? Maybe we won't. I just don't know. But meanwhile, y'all have a great time.